name is Great British Geek and welcome to another video. So if you are a fan of anime or manga in any way, shape or form, then I'm sure that you have either at some point encountered the extremely popular anime and manga series Death Note. Now Death Note is an extremely popular series and for a lot of people it tends to be the first one they ever read or watch. I know for me, the first ever manga I read was Death Note. I've got a lot of them down there actually, and it was actually the second anime series I watched, but the first one I watched all the way through. But in terms of like anime in general, it was probably like the fourth thing I'd seen because I'd seen like a couple of movies beforehand. Anyway, it was, you know, one of the few things that really got me into the anime and manga scene. Now it's fair to say that Death Note over the years has been getting bigger and bigger. It started out with its original manga series, which is brilliant, definitely read that if you haven't. Then it eventually got adapted into an anime, and there have been 2 Japanese live-action series, and unfortunately there is a Netflix original American adaptation of this series that is premiering pretty soon, I believe. And in addition to that, there have also been other novels and movies made about this, primarily about L, I believe. Yet despite Death Note being an absolutely colossal part of the anime and manga community, there are still so many things about this brilliant series that a lot of people don't know. So here are the top 12 things that you probably didn't know about Death Note. And why 12? Because why not? So the first thing is the Death Eraser. Now of everything on this list, this is probably one of the ones I think most people are likely to know. In the original pilot for the Death Note manga, there was actually an item called the Death Eraser. Now this never actually made it into the manga or the anime. However, the Death Eraser is very, very simple. You could use this eraser to rub out any names written in the Death Note and it would revive them. This comes from the plotline of the original pilot manga, in which the Death Eraser is given to the protagonist by Ryuk. However, I'll talk more about that later. Death Note, the musical. You heard it right. Now I didn't mention this in the beginning, and although it doesn't really fit with Death Note's crime and mystery and somewhat adventure kind of genre, but Death Note actually got made into a musical. Now you might be thinking, what? Why was this ever a thing? Like, what? But believe it or not, when this debuted in Japan, this actually got fairly good reviews. So, next time you got a couple of hours to yourself, go watch Death Note the musical, and to be honest, it probably did better than the American Netflix original series will ever do. Now, what would you do if Kira was real? Well, at some point, he was. At one point there was actually a real-life Kira killer. Now, he didn't kill in the same way that Light Yagami does. However, during a Belgium murder investigation, police found notes that were saying, "Watashi wa Kira desu," which means, I am Kira. They were written in Romanji and spelled incorrectly, but, you know, someone tried to be Kira. You know, throughout Death Note it is fairly obvious that L and Light are pretty opposite. However, they are actually more opposite than you might imagine. Go back and rewatch episode 2 of Death Note. You'll notice that during the sequence, Light is using a PC, whereas L is using a Mac. Maybe Light is smarter after all. It's very clear from Death Note that L is one of the smartest anime characters around. However, he's also a very good liar. Every time Al gave a percentage of the odds to which a character could be Kira, he lied. So you'll notice that throughout the series that he often gives Light a 5% chance of being Kira, whereas to be honest, he was lying. He meant 90%. So basically throughout the entire thing, Al pretty much knew. He's one sneaky little bastard. Now, we all know that kids are easily influenced. by their favourite things, and Death Note was no exception. This anime was actually banned in China at one point due to kids in China being mean and writing the names of their fellow classmates down in notebooks. Now, obviously their notebooks aren't going to kill anyone, but it's kind of the idea that they would want to do so that caused this to get banned from China. Now, I've already spoken briefly about the pilot chapter of the Death Note manga. However, it was going to be a lot more different than you might think. Instead of the Light Yagami that we know and potentially love, the protagonist was going to be a much younger, much more innocent male called Taro Kagami. Notice the inspirations and coincidences there. Kagami, Yagami. In the original pilot of this manga, Taro Kagami accidentally uses the Death Note to murder several bullies from school, and actually, Ryuk ends up taking pity on him, which is how we learn about the Death Eraser. Ryuk gives the Death Eraser to Taro Kagami in order for him to revive the bullies that he accidentally killed. Now, that's not only a very different Ryuk that we know and love now, but the entire atmosphere of the whole thing is just very, very different. Not only is Taro Kagami accidentally using the Death Note and killing bullies, it's totally different from Light Yagami purposefully murdering criminals in order to create justice. So, we might have had something totally different. And sometimes even the professionals cut corners. A highly intelligent Shinigami called Daro Gerosa was intended. However, he was replaced by the much more dim-witted Sido simply because he was easier to draw. Now, I've met a lot of people who have been very, very freaked out by Ryuk's current design. However, he was intended to look much more different. During the original creations of Ryuk, he was actually meant to have a human appearance, with wings as well. And apparently Ryuk was also meant to be quite attractive looking. Personally, I prefer the Ryuk that we ended up with, simply because it gives it such a more mythical and unknown feeling to him. I think if he was human, it might have ruined it a bit. Plus, it would have just gone a bit too deep in the uncanny valley for me. Right, guys, final 3. It's the final 3. That's 6. That's 3. Now, I'm sure many of you remember the fight scene that went down between Light and L, especially if you're a yaoi shipper. However, when this scene debuted, many fans believe that L was actually using a form of dance fighting that originated from Brazil. This was not intended, but once the author heard about it, he made it canon. Now, in the highly overlooked Death Note Relight, you'll probably know that we are introduced to a completely different Shinigami. However, so many fans now believe that this is Light. This comes not only from the Shinigami's appearance, as I think he does look a bit like Light, but also because of his interactions with a seemingly older Ryuk. If this is true, and if this Shinigami is in fact Light after he dies, this provides a huge insight into the Shinigami realm and the lore of Death Note itself. Okay everybody, it's number 1! L was almost a dad. When the characters of Nier and Mello were being created, Death Note creator Oba actually considered them to not only be Al's prodigies, but his actual sons. This is why that when the pilot manga was coming out and the original manga, Mello and Nier, all their personalities were a bit diluted. However, when this idea was eventually scrapped, their personalities became more individual and more prominent. However, it's safe to say that both Nier and Mello definitely inherited their sweet tooth from their almost father. So there you go guys, there are 12 things that you might not have known about Death Note, and if you did know every single one of them, I'm sorry I disappointed you. So guys, please let me know what you thought of this video. I really did enjoy this. If there are any more anime or manga series that you think I should do things you probably didn't know about video on, please write them down in the comments below and I will hopefully get round to them at some point. But you know, thank you for sticking with me, because I know I'm not uploading much because of my A-levels and all that, but you guys are brilliant and I love you all so much. But thank you guys so much for watching, thank you for all the support. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment away, and remember, embrace the weird and stay geeky. Goodbye guys.